They say kids ask too many questions. But I only asked one. Asterisk, why does my sister get steak, and I only get scraps? Asterisk. That's when my father, the man who was supposed to protect me, walked over, calmly, like he was tying his shoe, and shattered my fingers with a hammer. Yeah, a real hammer. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just stared at him, at the man who looked me in the eye, and said, asterisk, you talk too much. Asterisk. And that, my friend, was the day everything changed. Let me tell you what kind of childhood leads up to that moment, and what happened next might shock you even more than the hammer. Because what broke me wasn't just the pain in my hands. It was the years I spent thinking I deserved it. This story isn't about pity. It's about what happens when silence becomes survival, and a child realizes love can wear the face of a monster. Stay with me. Growing up, I thought favoritism was normal. My sister, Abigail, was the angel. Golden curls, sparkling eyes, perfect grades, family photo favorite. I was just there. If she spilled milk, it was asterisk, she's just tired. Asterisk. If I spilled it, asterisk, you're a clumsy little waste. Asterisk. Our dinners were the clearest example of all. She got steak. I got bones. Not even kidding, literal bones. Once, I got a chicken back with no meat on it and a half-chewed corn cob. Protein, they said. But no one cared enough to ask me how school was. No one noticed when I stopped talking, or when I started hiding food under my bed, just to feel full for once. I wasn't jealous of Abigail. I was invisible. Until one night. I asked why. Why does Abigail get steak and I don't? I didn't ask to be cruel. I didn't raise my voice. Just curiosity, the kind of question any 9-year-old might ask, trying to understand a world that made no sense. He was drinking. Of course he was. That night it was rum. He looked up, slow, like I'd spat on his shoes. Say that again? I froze. I didn't even realize what I said was dangerous. But the silence in the room, that loud, suffocating silence, told me everything. The hammer was already in his hand. He'd been fixing the porch earlier. And then, crack. One finger. Crack. Another. The third one snapped like a twig under his rage. 3 fingers. On my right hand. And the worst part? Mom watched. She didn't flinch. Didn't rush to help. Just sat there, holding her glass like this was TV. I learned something that night. Fear doesn't always scream. Sometimes, it just stands still and stares. The next morning, I didn't go to the hospital. Of course not. They wrapped my fingers in an old dish towel, duct taped it, and sent me to school. Tell them you fell, Mom whispered. And I did. I told the nurse I tripped on the stairs. I smiled through the ache, like a good little soldier. Because that's what I'd been trained to do. By 12, I knew how to cook for myself, clean the whole house, and fake happiness at every school assembly. Teachers complimented my polite manners. They never saw the burn marks. So, why am I telling you this? Because for the longest time, I thought that was normal. That asking questions was dangerous. That love looked like pain, and that survival meant silence. But there was a moment, a crack in the foundation, that changed everything. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't loud. It was Abigail. Yes, the steak-eating princess herself. She came into my room one night when we were both teenagers, sat on the edge of my bed, and whispered. I saw what he did. I saw it all. I didn't know what to do. I wanted to scream at her, to cry, to curse, but I couldn't, because all I felt was relief. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't imagining it. Someone else had finally seen. That's when I knew the silence was over. It took years. I moved out at 17. I left with nothing but a backpack, a part-time job, and 3 crooked fingers that never healed right. But you know what did heal? Me. Therapy. Found family. The kindness of strangers who didn't know my story, but showed me what human decency looked like. And eventually, I learned to ask questions again. Why do people hurt the ones they're supposed to love? Why do we protect abusers in the name of family? Why do we call it discipline, when it's just cruelty dressed up in excuses? Here's the punchline though. Years later, at a family gathering, my father tried to hug me. Like nothing happened. Like my fingers weren't mangled by his rage. I looked him dead in the eyes and said, "You broke your son, and I rebuilt him without you." And I walked away. Because this time, I chose silence, not out of fear, but out of power. Let me leave you with this asterisk. If you've ever been made to feel small for asking why, if you've ever been punished for seeking fairness, or love, or just a second helping at dinner, you are not wrong. Your pain is real. Your story matters. And one day, you'll realize, just like I did, that surviving wasn't weakness, it was warrior training. So here's your moment. Speak up. Break cycles. And if they don't like your questions, break their silence instead. Don't just watch and scroll. Comment with one word that describes your moment, the one that changed everything. Let this section be a safe space for all the whys that never got answered. And if this story hit you in the gut, it's because it's real, and it's happening to someone right now. Make sure they know they're not alone, because sometimes sharing one story can save another. Subscribe if you're not afraid of truth. This isn't just a video. It's vindication.